Good morning, everyone. It is now 10 o'clock. I'm actually going to give it a few more minutes. I see a few more people just trickling in, so I'm going to give it a few more minutes to allow those to join in, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Flexible Assistance for Survivors Pilot Grant Program Competitive Funding Opportunity webinar. We really appreciate you guys joining us. I know most people's Decembers are very busy, so we appreciate you joining us today. So with that being said, we're going to just jump right into it. Um, a few things to go over before we go into the official presentation. We have closed captioning available. We have a live closed captioner with us today. And if you would like to use those services, you can enable that feature if you choose to use it. At the bottom of your screen is a CC button. You just click on that, and then that will enable the closed captioning for you throughout the presentation. Also, we'll be posting in the chat that's available. The chat's not enabled for people to converse in, but we will be posting a link in there, and that link will take you to a live stream like transcript for all closed captioning. So if you wish to use that, just use that link and that'll take you right there. Um, for those of you who did not join us for the last webinar, we took questions throughout the presentation. However, during this webinar, we will be holding questions for the end. And for that purpose, the Q&A chat box we're going to open that at the end of the presentation. So it's not open now to put questions in, but we will be enabling it towards the end of the presentation so you can start posing your questions. And this is for the purpose that I may be answering some of your questions throughout the presentation. So that's why we're going to hold the questions till the very end. And while we're on the topic of questions, we can only answer technical questions. We cannot answer any interpretation or eligibility questions. We can only answer technical questions if you're having an issue clicking a box in GCS or having technicality issues submitting your application, and I can certainly help you with that. So just keep that in mind when we get towards the end and we get to the Q&A portion of the presentation, that I can only answer technical questions. And this is because we are in the competitive process. So this is to ensure that we remain equitable throughout the competitive process to all applicants. Okay, so we are going to go right into why we are here. So just to go over quickly what we're going to be touching on throughout the presentation, we're going to do a quick overview on the Victim Services branch and what we do here at Cal OES. We're also going to go over the Flexible Assistance for Survivors pilot grant program and how this program came to be to what it is today. And then we're going to touch on our new Grant Central system, which we also call GCS. And this is the system that you guys will be applying for this program through. So I will be going over that. And then I will be showing a quick snippets of the competitive funding opportunity. Again, I cannot be interpreting any portion of the CFO, but I'll be showing you what that CFO looks like. And in addition to the CFO, we have required forms that will be required with the application, and that is attached to the CFO. So I'll be showing you what those forms look like and where you can find those. And then, like I said, we are going to be ending with questions and answers. So we're going to start by giving you a basic intro to who we are at California Governor's Office of Emergency Services, Cal OES for short. I'm going to show you where we're located in the Cal OES umbrella. We are known for our response for emergencies such as natural disasters, and it's not always obvious where some of the programs are administered. So it's important that you see where we are in this vast umbrella. So we are located in the finance and administration umbrella here. And within that umbrella, there are three other sections: administrative services, human resources, and then us and grants management. Under grants management, you will see our branch, victim services branch. Within the branch, there are three divisions uh, and 10 units spread throughout the three divisions. The three divisions are human trafficking and youth division, the criminal justice division, and the intimate partner violence and underserved victim division. Um, where this particular program is going to be housed is in the family justice unit. And that's my unit. I manage that unit, and with myself are 6 grants analysts, and we will be doing the work as far as ministering this program and seeing through the entire process. So this kind of gives you an idea of where this particular program is going to be maintained. The mission and the goals of the Victim Services Branch, VSB, is to provide financial and technical assistance and support victim service providers throughout the state of California. We provide financial assistance by creating victim-centered programs that are also trauma-informed. A lot of research has gone through with each funding source to creating each program that we have in the VSB and Victim Services Branch. And I'll be touching on how this particular program was created this way in a minute. Um, for our current subrecipients who receive funding from us, it is our job and our mission to provide prompt and consistent technical assistance. This ranges from getting grant subawards fully executed to conducting performance assessments to ensure that they are fully compliant. And conducting performance assessments and compliance reviews are just some of the ways that we reach our last goal here, which is to ensure that we are compliant with all federal and state requirements. Before we dive into the particular FA program, I wanted to give you all a quick snapshot of the work we do in VSB. In the fiscal year 2022 to 23, we oversee approximately 80 programs. These programs range from the victim witness program to elder abuse, family justice programs, domestic violence programs, sexual assault, chat programs, and much more. And spread throughout those 80 programs, we had approximately 1,200 fully executed grant subawards. And we can break down these subawards by agency type. Of those 1,200, about 72% are non-governmental, 25% are local governmental agencies, 2.1 are tribal organizations, and 1.6% are state agencies. That kind of gives you an idea of the kind of programs that we house here. So to the meat of why we're here, why everyone is here, is for the Flexible Assistance for Survivors Pilot Grant Program, which we also call the FA program. And this all started with Assembly Bill 200. This bill established um, this Flexible Assistance for Survivors program. From the bill, the FOSS Pilot Grant Program Advisory Committee was also established, and this committee is comprised of persons appointed by the governor, Speaker of the Assembly, and Senate President pro tempore. The 6 committee members work collaboratively with CalOES, as some of you may have been a part or witnessed in our many advisory committees in the past year or so. We've worked collaboratively with them to develop components and requirements for the FA program. This committee worked hard to create a program that is flexible while still meeting the requirements of this specific bill. The 2022 State Budget Act was passed and appropriated $50 million for this one-time pilot grant program. Of this $50 million, $47.5 million is available to applicants of this program. At this time, these funds must be encumbered and expended no later than June 30th of 2026. We have a quick outline of the program requirements. All of the program requirements are clearly stated in AB 200. We developed the program in close collaboration with the advisory committee, as I mentioned before, including only what is statutorily required and what we believe we will need to demonstrate the success of this program. We have outlined here the program requirements as outlined in the CFO. And the next few slides, we will focus on goals and purpose of the program, some important definitions, and eligibility requirements. The goal and purpose of the program for AB 200 is here. This is direct language from the bill. As you can see, there's a lot of language here, and it's a little bit difficult to read. So together with the committee, we slightly reworded the language to be a bit more concise. Again, I have to emphasize that I cannot interpret this language for you further than what is stated here in the CFO language, which is on the right-hand side. So what the CFO says, the purpose of the program is to improve safety, healing, and financial stability for victims and survivors of crime and their families through direct cash/financial assistance. So in red is cash/financial because that language was slightly updated because this past September, Assembly Bill 179 slightly amended this language to allow organizations to directly distribute cash assistance funds to a victim or survivor directly to the parent, guardian, or of the victim of survivor, or to a vendor or business to pay for an expense or purchase on behalf of a survivor. And this updated language is also indicated in the CFO. So again, I cannot interpret that for you, but that explains why that cash/financial assistance is in red, because that has been slightly updated to make it a little bit more concise on cash/financial assistance and not just cash. From here, we will pivot and cover some important definitions and then get back to the goal of the program. These definitions come directly from AB 200, and I want to point out that family members can be considered a victim if they suffered a physical, sexual, or emotional harm as a result of the commission of a crime. This is determined by the individual. No documentation, such as a police report or a therapist letter or anything of that sort, is ever going to be required under this program. So I'm very happy to see that we have actual dates. For the longest time, everything has been to be determined. But as you all know, since the release of the CFO on October 15th, we can now determine other important dates for this process. In collaboration with the FOSS Advisory Committee, it was decided to give applicants up to 12 weeks to apply, giving the final proposal due date of January 24th of 2025. And this date is listed in GCS. And once you go in and view the funding opportunity, you will see that date listed in there. At any time after that date, no applications can be accepted. For applicants that are so after the proposal due date, um, our end of the things here at Cal OES is we will be reading and rating, and it'll be a long process, especially depending on how many applications we receive or proposals we receive. So we allowed ourselves plenty of time to be able to go through that process, through a long, fair process for all proposals. So we have determined that for those proposals that do get chosen for funding, that the performance period will start May 1st of 2025 and go through April 30th of 2026. So we are going to go into the Grant Central system, which you guys have heard me mention a few times. I'm sure many of you guys are familiar with that at this point. I've seen already a lot of applications or proposals started in the system. So I know a lot of people have figured out at least enough to get into the system and start a proposal. But for those of you guys who are unfamiliar with the system, this is the link at the bottom of this slide. This link will take you straight to the Grant Central system. And this is the system that you will be submitting all proposals through. And how we came up with Grant Central system, it's been in the work for a couple of years. And it is the goals for this system is to bring all of our grants management parts and processes and all into one system and to streamline all of our processes. This is in turn helped, we've already seen how it's cut down on time and processing documents and payments. And it's not a perfect system right now, but every day it gets better and better. So we appreciate if once you've gone into the system, your patience with it, and we've already gotten great feedback on it. In addition to our processes, we're going to use this current technology in the system to validate data, to collect data, and in turn be able to turn around all that data and report it back to our state and federal fund sources. And it's also become a great tool for our management to be able to view all work that is currently in the system and being worked on. Even if it has not been submitted to management, we are still able to go in the system and view where where you're working on, what kind of problems I might foresee. So it's a great tool for that. And in turn, it, like I said, it does make our processes move quicker in that way. So after you type in that web address that I gave you a few slides back, this is the screen that you will see when you go into your browser. This is without needing to log in or register yet. Again, this is just when you first click on that. If you don't have a login or registration, you can still view all funding opportunities here at the top left-hand corner, right where that red arrow is. You'll click on the opportunity search and it will bring you to a page where you just type in whatever opportunity you're looking for. It has many different filters that you can use to see what kind of opportunities are available currently. However, once you review that funding opportunity and determine this is maybe something that your agency is interested in and wants to apply for, you do need to have you do have to register through the system in order to do so. So this is where you'll go. On that same login page at the bottom, you'll see the new user register here link. So you'll click on that link and it'll prompt you all of your information so that you can get officially registered in for the system. Once you register, please be aware that confirmation of registration may take up to a few days to get approved. And if our processing unit does not have all the information they need, or they determine they cannot approve it, they will be in contact with you to tell you what they need or what you need to do. So once you are officially registered and you get approval, now you can go into the system. So once you get successfully logged in, this is the dashboard. This is your dashboard that you will see when you first get logged in. There's plenty of great tools here, and I encourage you guys all to go in there and just kind of poke around and make it comfortable for yourself. Um, and if you're not familiar with the system, I want to point out the training materials. The top right hand corner, you'll see the little yellow book there. Once you click or hover over that, this little drop down menu will come down. Now, this screenshot I think is a little bit old. Like I said, the system's constantly changing. And since I've taken this screenshot like a month or two ago, there have been more training materials that have been loaded. So, right now, currently in the system, there's more training materials available for you. And these are great resources and tools to use as you're getting acclimated with the system. So I highly encourage all of you as you're getting used to this new system, as we are here too, to utilize those resources. And that should hopefully help you get through the application process and understand it a little bit better as you're applying, and kind of take a little stress out of it. So the competitive funding opportunity, the CFO, um, this is the cover page of the CFO, which we also refer to as the program supplemental. This is going to be attached to the competitive funding opportunity when you go into GCS and search for flexible assistance for survivors. It'll bring up the funding opportunity and there'll be a link there for the program supplemental. You click on that link and this is what it's going to show you. The first few pages are intended to give you a very high level overview of the program. And this helps you kind of determine quickly if this is a program that you're interested in and or eligible for, and therefore may want to look more into. On this page, you will see brief contact information. Um, we have our FOSS inbox information there for any questions that you may have regarding this proposal or your proposal or the CFO. Again, we have to limit answering questions to just technical questions. We also have included the Grant Central info email address, which if you're having technical issues, there's a glitch in the system, it's very obvious that there's something wrong with the system, you're going to contact that email address. Also at the bottom of the page are the beginnings of the eligibility definitions for this particular program. So we have a few definitions here that we wanted to bring to your attention. We wanted to make sure that this funding was accessible to all organizations, and because we know that some organizations are doing amazing niche work but don't necessarily have the infrastructure to administer a grant, we created a way for agencies to partner together to submit a proposal. So the applicant is, in this particular program, a California community-based organization, or CBO, that proposes to enter into grant subaward with Cal OES. They could do this on behalf of a partner organization, or they can do it on their own if they choose so. A partner organization is an organization that enters into this grant subaward. That includes the exchange of money between the applicant and themselves, the partner organization. I do want to point out, that an applicant may have up to 4 partner organizations. They don't have to have 4, but they can have up to 4 partner organizations for a particular proposal. Your decision on whether you're applying as an applicant or a partner organization, that's all determined on the eligibility verification and allocation determination form. And that's one of the required forms for this particular CFO. And I will go over what that form looks like and where you can find that form in a minute. On this page, the eligibility information is more detailed in here. Again, I touched on that just a few slides back. And I cannot interpret this, but this is where you'll find that in the CFO. The eligibility, just a full bullet points on what those requirements are. In order to be eligible for this program, like I said, you must be a CBO organization that's registered with the California DOJ as current, exempt, or pending status. You must have a history of serving victims or survivors living in California. And of those survivors, you must primarily serve victims or survivors. Must primarily serve victims or survivors, or a majority of the people of the CBO or project within the CBO serves are victims or survivors. Again, I mentioned that eligibility verification, allocation determination form. This is attachment A. You must completely submit that or complete it. Again, that's where you determine who is the applicant, if you have any partner organizations, and then what tier you'll be applying for. And I'll be going over the tiers here in a minute. And that's all on this form. It must be completed and signed and attached to the application. Without this, you are not eligible for this program. And then finally, to be considered for funding, your proposal must receive a minimum score of 50% of the available points, at least 50% or more. And the sections that I just went through, this is where you'll find it in the CFO, what that language looks like. So going on to the funding opportunity. For this program, you can request a one-time advance of up to 25% of the total project cost. Again, this is only one time, up to 25%. You don't have to request an advance, but that option is there for you. All payments after this are strictly on a reimbursement basis. And because this is state funding, there is a no match requirement. No less than 90% of the funds are to be used to provide flexible cash/financial assistance to victims and survivors. This means that no more than 10% of funds can be used for administration costs for the grant subaward. And as mentioned before, the grant subaward performance period right now is May 1st, 2025, and ending April 30th, 2026. And this is based on the availability of funds. Now we come to the tiers. We came up with these tiers to ensure like-size organizations are competing against only each other. So we have created 5 different tiers here. 20% of the available funding, again, that's $47.5 million, so 20% of $47.5 million will be allocated to each of the 5 tiers as demonstrated here. Funding not needed to support eligible proposals for a tier will be redistributed equally among the remaining tiers. So if we received only a couple proposals for tier 2, then any leftover funds from that tier can be used to distribute between other tiers that may have had more proposals that scored higher than 50% of the available points. The applicant or partner organizations must indicate the tier that they qualify for in that eligibility verification and allocation determination form. And this is based on the number of survivors that they served in fiscal year 2022 to 2023. So for example, if your agency saw 370 survivors in fiscal year 22-23, then you can determine that your agency is eligible to apply up to $550,000 under tier 4. Now, again, it's up to that allocation. You don't have to take the entire amount, but you can, but you're still considered under tier 4. So we're going to go through the CFO required forms. Again, these are required uploads for the applicant for your proposal, starting with what I've touched on a few times already, the eligibility verification allocation determination form. This is attachment A. Like I've mentioned before, on this form, you determine who is the applicant, if you have any partnering organizations, and what tier that your applicant is eligible for. Then we have the preference points verification form. This is attachment B. This form is completed as it applies to the applicant or partner organization. And this form is part of the rated score. So if you've already started your application, you will see in the program narrative at the very end, there is a section regarding the preference points. That's where our raters will put their score for this form. So there's nothing that you have to put in that narrative section. That's for us to ensure that our score from that form is included in your total score. And I'm going to move on to show you where to find these forms. So you're going to click on when this is, if you're not already familiar with what an application looks like in GCS, this is just a quick snapshot of what that looks like. And on the left-hand side, you have a list of different categories. So you're going to go and click on the program narrative. And once you click on the program narrative, it's going to show all the questions that we ask, the required questions that we ask for the program narrative. But once you scroll all the way down to the bottom, you'll see this section here where it shows required document 1 and required document 2. So you'll see a link there where you can click on each of those links, attachment A and attachment B, and that will download it to your computer, and that will give you that'll enable you to view and complete those 2 forms. Save those to your computer, and once you are ready to attach it to the application, you would then attach it in that red box there where it says browse. And again, you cannot submit your application without it. The system will not allow you. And since I'm here showing you a quick snapshot, a few things to point out. You can see that next to application information on the left-hand side is a little checkbox. That means that section is complete and you're ready to move forward. But then you look at contact information and you see a little exclamation point. That means that this section needs some attention and is not ready to be submitted. Same with program narrative. And then you see the other boxes that are empty. Again, the beauty of this system is it will not allow you to move forward or submit anything with any unchecked boxes or exclamation points. It's going to bring your attention back to what needs to be fixed. Okay, so now we are at the end of that, the whole webinar. I hope that was helpful for you. If any of you guys have any technical questions, we're going to open up that Q&A box right now, and I will kind of go through from top to bottom any questions that I can answer for you. So I'm going to give you guys a few minutes to get that open and type in your questions, and I'll start answering for you. Okay, so we'll go with the hands first. So, Matt, can you unmute the Leah, please? Or is it Thalia or Talia? Sorry, you're muted. Okay, so
I've asked them to unmute, but nothing has happened yet.
okay, so we'll go on to Gio. Gio, are you there? You have questions? Okay, maybe not. All right, so we
Geo
can.
is unmuted, so they should be talking.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, hi, Gio.
Okay, great. Hi. Thank you so much. Just a clarification I may have missed this really quick, for the tier that we would qualify for when submitting our proposal, it's for the fiscal year 22-23 is what you stated currently, or is it a calendar year? Okay.
Fiscal year, yes.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate that clarification.
Yeah, no problem. Hi, let's unmute Richard.
Hi, I had a couple questions. First, does victim survivors in determining the appropriate tier include household members?
Yes, so and there is a section in the CFO that determines if members of their family, we have definitions of there what family member is and if they can be determined as a victim or survivor, but there is that definition in there.
Okay, thank you. And my
Mhm.
second question was, if the CFO allows a 10% administrative fee, can that administrative fee be claimed as indirect expense?
I believe that would be considered administration costs, so that should go under there. I can't really interpret too much more than that. But yes, it's just a 10% of all administration costs.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. And let's unmute Andrew.
Hi, thank you. I have two quick questions. First one being are the funds that are going to be distributed to victims and survivors, are they considered taxable income or will they be waived from that?
There is a section in the CFO that covers that question specifically. And I did not cover that during the webinar, but if you read through the CFO, it does mention what's considered income tax.
Okay, thank you. And then the second question for the tiered funding levels, what's considered a service under those tiers? Is there a definition?
I don't think we have that defined. It's just any kind of direct service that you guys gave a victim or survivor during that fiscal year. I can't really interpret that much more than that. That's going to have to be by your own interpretation and how you collected that data during that fiscal year.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Talia, are you there? She may have trouble connecting. She's muted. Okay. What about Vanessa? Hi, Vanessa, are you there? Okay, then we'll go to Sam. Hi, Sam.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Yeah, I just had a quick question around the eligibility requirements. So for example, if an organization that we're working with or for and applying on behalf of, they have a variety of programs, like maybe over 30, for example. But the funds that we're applying for this project specifically go to benefit 3 of the programs that are only dedicated to survivors and victims. Would that still remain eligible? Like, for example, in the CFO, I think it reads primarily serve victim survivors, in parentheses, i.e., the majority of people the CBO or a project within the CBO serves are victim survivors.
Yeah, unfortunately, I cannot answer any eligibility questions, so that's going to have to be up to your interpretation of what that says, unfortunately.
Okay, yeah, no problem.
Yaritza? Hi,
Hi.
Yaritza.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Hello. Yes, I can hear you.
Hi. So the application asks for a primary location, um, of project services. Is it okay to use a PO box due to like the nature of the work, or does it have to be the physical address?
Um, no, I think, yeah, for the nature of, like you said, of what we do, we are okay with receiving PO boxes. I think we just need to know the general location of where you serve your clients, your victims and survivors.
Okay, and then quick follow-up question. I didn't see a definition for who could be considered like the chair of the governing body. Um, do you have a little more insight as to who or what the definition of that is?
It is not in the CFO. I believe that's determined by your agency, but you could also read our subrecipient handbook. And you can find a link to our subrecipient handbook in the CFO. It's at the very first page is a link to the subrecipient handbook. And there we have more definitions for things like that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, so I'm going to go through the some of these questions. Are allowable costs considered a technical question? Yes, we cannot help you kind of determine on what kind of things to put in your budget and what kind of things can be used. However, the beauty of this program is it's pretty straightforward as far as this financial / cash assistance for victims and survivors. So your budgets should be pretty simple as far as that goes. And then, is there a limit on how many users in GCS an agency can have? I don't believe there is. The only thing is that we make sure is we have the correct authorized agents listed under your agency. And that is the person who, what we used to be called the official designee. So we will be making sure that the correct people are listed as the authorized agent. But as far as many users each agency can have, I don't believe there's a limit. Can we allocate personnel to the budget to administer the grant? Again, this goes back to the 10% rule. You can only allocate no more than 10% for administrative costs. The application asks, how many grants does your organization currently receive? Is this all grants total, such as government, private, and public? I believe it's a total. If it doesn't specify, then you should go with total. RFP says only certain crimes are eligible. Will we need to provide our victim types from 2022 to 23? You will be providing some sort of information like that in attachment B. So I encourage you to review what that attachment says and the kind of questions. I think there's 5 questions in that, 4 or 5. And it does ask about certain crimes that you have served victims for. So please, I encourage you to read that attachment B. Does a partner or subrecipient have the same level of access to contribute to the narrative? The applicant, the person who is determined as the applicant, is the person who is applying in GCS. So if you're asking if they can go in and type in their answers, only the applicant will have that access to do so. Is the 10% of admin costs total that you utilize or you are allotted or qualify for? It's 10% of your total project cost. So if you are doing your interior, you're applying for up to $400,000, or you determine that you're going to apply for only $400,000, you take 10% of $400,000. So it's whatever you are putting in your budget as your total project cost, you take 10% of that. Well, okay, I'll come back to the hand. When establishing how many victims of crimes we served in 23, can served include mental health, education, and not just cash payments. Yeah, so we don't specify what kind of services that you have to list. It's just direct services to victims of crime. So any kind of services for victims of crime. About mostly serving victims of crime, does that mean who we serve overall as an organization or who we serve with this project? I believe you need to interpret the language yourself, but I believe it's overall as an organization. Regarding fiscal year 2022 to 23, our fiscal year is a calendar year, so just to clarify, this would be for the 12-month period. I believe, no, I think it's the 10/1/22 to 9/30/23. Deanna, correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I believe that's the fiscal year we're going by.
Danny, I don't know if we determined whether it would be, I think it should be the state fiscal year, which is a June 1 start date.
Yeah, that would make sense. It's state funding.
Yeah.
So June 1.
Mhm.
July 1, 22
July
to
1.
July 1, 22 to June 30th, 23.
Correct.
Okay. Can administrative costs be shared with the partner organizations? I cannot interpret that for you. Again, what we're looking at is that strictly only no more than 10% can be used for administrative costs. Can you clarify the application examples of what items will be placed in the budget categories? Example, gift cards or food vouchers, would those go into operating, or does everything go into financial assistance spending? So there is a section in the CFO where we give clear instructions on which budget categories to select. So please read that section, and that will tell you exactly where to put certain items in your budget. Like I said, this is a pretty straightforward budget, so there's only like 2 categories that you would have to select. If we bring in partners, do their service numbers count toward the tier funding levels? There is instructions on the determination form, attachment A. So read those instructions, and then it'll tell you exactly how to determine those numbers when trying to determine which tier you're in. May an applicant choose to provide financial assistance but not direct cash to clients? So like mentioned before, the language was slightly changed to kind of clarify that it's cash/financial assistance, to give a little bit more flexibility on what kind of assistance you can give to clients. And like I mentioned before, for Bill 179, it gives more information on what kind of assistance can be given. So please read through that in the CFO, and that should answer your question right there. I'm going to take a break and go to Jana Rivas. I see your hand is raised. Jana, if you want to unmute.
Sorry, I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Perfect, thank you. In the IntelliGrants, under the budget category, can you confirm, are we wanting to put in specific categories as to where we will provide the funding, i.e. legal, travel, therapeutic services, or is it just the amount overall? Understanding that this grant is intended to be flexible, and therefore we don't know exactly where that funding will go yet.
Yeah, so the whole purpose of this program is to be as flexible as possible with these financial funds. That, like I said before, the CFO does tell you which 2 categories to use.
Right.
So I can't quite tell you which categories to choose outside of that. But the intention is to be as flexible as possible.
Fantastic. Thank you for clarifying. And then I did ask in the chat, I'm not seeing the attachment B you referenced in IntelliGrants. Is there another place that might be?
It should be attached to once you go in and start your application, it's in the program narrative, and you scroll all the way down to the bottom,
Got
and
it.
those attachments are there.
Fabulous. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, and then let's try Vanessa again. Vanessa, are you there? You can unmute. You just have to press the unmute button. Oops. Mm. All right, well, we can come back to her, and I'll continue on. Can agencies collaborate with partners from outside of our county in order to have a larger impact, i.e. rural counties collaborating? I can't quite say yes or no to that. That's something that you guys have to determine for yourselves after reading through the CFO. I don't believe there's any boundaries to that, though. Are we able to determine the qualifications of the survivors served, as in we do not count hotline calls solely because they called the hotline one time? Are we able to determine the qualifications of survivors served? Not sure I understand. Again, that's up to your determination on what numbers that you counted for that time period as far as victims served. You have to have documentation to back that number up, though. We won't be asking for that documentation during this process, but if you get chosen as a subrecipient of this program, then, down the line, as we do compliance reviews, we will be asking for that documentation. So you do have to make sure that you're able to back those numbers up. We are a new organization launched in 2023. Are we still eligible if we partner with other organization that meets the fiscal year 22-23 requirements? So yes, if you, again, read the definitions of what a applicant and partner organization is, then you can determine who you partner with, and again, read through the eligibility determination form to determine of what numbers you'll be collecting or reporting on that. Can the payment be in the form of physical cash, since most of our clients do not have any bank account? Again, this is flexible assistance for survivors. We don't have a whole lot of boundaries or anything saying that we can't do any kind of financial assistance. So that is up for your interpretation. But I don't recall seeing anything in there about how that physical cash is not allowable. In regards to allowable costs, the CFO states that rental assistance, other lodging is allowable. Are costs for motels included in other lodging? That's something that you guys are going to have to determine yourself. If it doesn't explicitly say unallowable, then that's up for your interpretation. Can you please show the preferred points verification form and briefly go through it? That's a hard form for us to go through without having to interpret anything. So again, I would encourage you to go into GCS, and like I said before, it's located in the application once you start it, and it's a link that will then download it to your computer. Is crime defined by a police report? No. This program was created for the flexibility, meaning we don't require any victim or survivor to have any kind of documentation to prove that they are in fact a victim of crime. So please read through the CFO, and that will explain that all in there, as well as the bill. The bill goes into much deeper detail on that. If we have approval for a larger 18% de minimis for admin costs, does that apply for this grant as well? No. Again, we cannot allow more than 10% for administrative costs for this program. I am actually in the IntelliGrant system right now. I'm attempting to find the application package, and within the document search fields, I have selected flexible assistance for survivors. When I hit search, it returns no results. Is there a better way to locate the application package in the system? Not sure why it's not, there's no
Hey,
results, so I'm gonna
Jamie,
have to,
can I interject on this one
yeah.
for a quick sec? Dale, if you're listening, so I believe you're on the searches tab. But if you go into under my opportunities and under filters, select provider as Cal OES, and then next to name, select flexible in search, then it should pop up in your my opportunities. But if you're searching for it in the application section and you're typing in, then it's not popping up. So I would try going to that my opportunities tab and putting in under filters Cal OES as the provider, and then type in flexible for the name, and then it should pop up for you.
Yeah, if you're searching for applications, that means you're searching for your particular application that you've already started. So it just sounds like you're in the wrong field. Okay, a few more questions. You said that administrative costs are a straight 10%, so do we not have to calculate MDDC? Again, that's administrative costs and indirect costs are the same thing. So that's up for you to decide on how you want to include that in your budget. Will the different tiers be reviewed by the same people, or will tier 1 be reviewed by somebody separate from person or people reviewing tier 4 or 5? So we're going to have 5 different teams, and each team is going to be only reviewing one particular tier. There will be no crossover. Follow-up question, being a new organization, will we qualify as applicant given we were not in fiscal year 22-23? No, you would not, because like I said before, you have to have documentation to support your numbers. And if you have no numbers to report, then there would be no way for you to determine which tier you would be in. So you may have to partner with someone. So that's up to you to decide on that. Just to make sure I understood correctly, we're going to count survivors 7/1/22 to 6/30/23 for fiscal year 2020. Yes. This is state funding, so we're going to go by the state fiscal year calendar. Is the supplemental document the same as the CFO? Yes, the program supplemental is the CFO. How will the grant award be distributed? To the subrecipient to provide direct cash financial assistance. The subrecipient will distribute the funds to the partners to provide direct financial assistance, or awarded to subrecipient and partner separately. Read the CFO. You guys will have to create your own processes and procedures for that. And that's not for us to decide for you. But there are some questions in there that you do have to answer on that behalf. To verify, this grant is for victims of any crime, correct? Yeah, it's for victims of crime. So yes, just victims of crime. Does a victim of crime have to have a police report, or is it all clients registered regardless of police report? This program does not require any kind of documentation as on behalf of the victim of crime as far as that goes. So we do not require documentation to support that the person you're serving is in fact a victim of crime. Okay, do we have any other hands? One more question. How does the reimbursement process work? Is there a specific form for it? Everything is done through Grant Central system. So if you're chosen as a subrecipient with us, then you would submit a certain form in our Grant Central system. It's all integrated in the system. And then from there, you'd be reimbursed. And that's something that if you get chosen as a subrecipient, then we would assist with that, with getting started with that and show you how that works. Again, once you go into the Grant Central system, under the training tab, there is a training for submitting payments in the system, as well as on the Cal OES website. We have a webinar that we recently did, and that video is on Cal OES as well. Is billing monthly or quarterly? That is up to your agencies, seeing as this is a CBO only program, we encourage the best practices monthly. But again, that's something that we will discuss if you get chosen as a subrecipient, and then we can point you to certain parts of the subrecipient handbook that explain those expectations. How many subrecipients do you expect for the award? It's hard to say because there's 5 different tiers. It's all dependent on how many apply for each tier. So we don't have a clear number in mind right now. Do we have to have internal documentation showing those we served were victims in fiscal 23? Yes. Again, you have to have documentation supporting that the numbers that you reported on that form are in fact true numbers. Is this webinar available for us to review again? We have the first webinar that we recorded is actually already on our Cal OES website, so you can view that. It's the exact same information as what I presented here today. Along there, you will have FAQs that we had determined from that first webinar. I think after this one, we will add some FAQs to that. But yes, you can view this webinar again, and it's on our Cal OES website. If you guys have any more technical questions or would like a copy of this PowerPoint slide, we can certainly send that to you guys. Please email our email inbox. That's FAS, that's FAS, it's in Sam at caloes.ca.gov. That's also the same email address that's in the CFO. Email us there, and we can certainly send you material from this webinar. And again, we can answer any technical questions as well. Talia, I think I just answered your question in the chat, but if you had another question, you can go ahead and unmute right now.
I was just wondering, can you hear me?
Yes.
I was just wondering, what does each nonprofit have to qualify for the grant?
So that's in the eligibility section in the CFO. It lists exactly what each nonprofit needs to have as far as status and all that. So you can go ahead and read that in the CFO and determine that yourself if you think you'll be eligible or not.
Okay, and then in the earlier part, you had mentioned something about a nonprofit, like two collaborating together. So if we have a nonprofit and then we just recently started a different one for the community, we want to bring them into partnership together. Is that allowed?
Each applicant is able to have up to 4 partner organizations with them for each application. So yes, it sounds like you can, but you're gonna have to determine that yourself in that eligibility form there.
Because each partner would have to have the requirements met by the CFO, right?
Just the applicant.
Just the applicant, okay. Okay, got it.
So yeah, to definitely read the CFO, and if you have any other technical questions, like I said, please email our FOSS inbox, and we can certainly help you kind of steer you in the right direction if you have any other questions. All right, well, it looks like that's it for the questions. I sincerely appreciate you all taking the time to be with us today. And like I said, we see a lot of applications in process in the system, so we're very happy to see that, and we're excited to see your excitement about this program. And if you guys have any questions, again, you can email our FOSS inbox and we can help you in any way that we can. All right, well, thank you so much for joining us, and I hope everyone has a happy new year and happy holidays, and have a great day. Thank you. Bye.